Genesis 2 24 to 25. They were both naked and were not ashamed. You guys, me and you know that naturally embarrassing to be naked, for someone to see you naked in the original sense of the word. But the Bible says they were both naked and not ashamed. Thinking what I'm thinking. Because this is not the natural nakedness that we know. This is Welcome back to the channel. Is your girl Shalom Daniel Edu. Like we were saying, in the natural sense of the word, being naked, like there's nothing not ashamedly, if English will permit me, about being naked. It's being naked and not being ashamed for the both of you. According to the Bible, it's exclusively for marriage. Yeah. And in the real sense of the word, when you are married and you are both naked, you will now understand why the Bible says the both of them were naked and they were not ashamed. Yes, I say this because the word being naked and not ashamed does not narrow down to the physical nakedness. It encompasses physical nakedness, mind nakedness, spiritual nakedness, character nakedness, you name it. It means you are vulnerable and you are not ashamed. He knows your mumu button and you can proudly say, so you are pressing my mumu button. She knows what triggers you and you can proudly say, oh, you know me too much, this woman, that's why I love you. I believe that's what the Bible meant when it said they were both naked and they were not ashamed. Why do we have marriages these days that couples are living together but they don't even know each other? And then you hear words like, do you want him to laugh at me? I met somebody years back and she complained to me that having intimacy with her husband is quite difficult for her because she doesn't truly enjoy intimacy with him. Now, this was a shocker to me because in my marriage, we are vulnerable to each other about every and anything. And so it came like a shock. I said, talk to your husband about it. She's like, no. How is she supposed to start saying that? Like, ooh. You do not understand that vulnerability with your partner in marriage is sweet. Knowing that you are fragile, you are soft with him, and then he sees you outside taking charge of things, it just gives him a mixed melody, like a strawberry taste. It's kind of sour, but it's kind of sweet, but it blends, and then it turns him on in a way that you can't even explain. You're not vulnerable with your partner. Who are you vulnerable with? A lot of people say things like, supposed to tell him. It is funny for me, you guys, because I hear some people say, so he's supposed to know that I like intimacy in this certain way. He will now start thinking that I'm a prostitute. Girl, you are his prostitute. Girl, you are his prostitute. I don't understand. Or someone tells me that she wanted intimacy with her husband, but since he didn't come, she just slept. I say, hey, so you are not open to your husband with things like this, then what, like, how are you enjoying your marriage?
The Bible says in Genesis 2:24 to 25, they were both naked and they were not ashamed. It means that two of them could talk about their fears, they could talk about their beliefs, they could talk about their mistakes, they could talk about their fantasies, they could talk about their imaginations, they could talk about their failed plans, and they are not ashamed. Like I tell people, if you're not vulnerable with your husband, who would you be with? Is it your mom? Or your dad? Or your siblings? You can't tell your husband that you want intimacy in a certain kind of way. Do you plan on marrying another man? Or you plan on doing marriage part-time? Marriage is not part-time. It's a lifelong thing. You can't tell your wife that you think she should be neater with her private parts, she should wash better. You can't tell your wife, and you quote it with that thing of, I don't want to hurt her. You can't tell your husband that you want intimacy in a certain kind of way because you fear that he will tell who. He will not go and sit his friends down and say, my wife, she likes it like this. He's insulting himself, not you. The earlier you understand how important vulnerability in marriage is for you and your partner, the better for you. The earlier, that's when you start enjoying marriage. Like that, you can go to your spouse and he sees you trembling in fears, and then he comes with all his macho power and he said, who goes there? Don't worry, baby, I'm going to fix it. How romantic is that? Like, it is for me. And then you tell your wife that, oh babe, do you think I can nail this? I fear that I might flop in this presentation I'm going to make tomorrow. And then she comes all, you, baby, is it that you don't know who you are? Is it that you don't know yourself? You are super smart. When you talk, everybody has to stare because your voice is nailing it and you are making sense. It is in your vulnerability that your partner can help you drag out your inner strength that you never knew existed. And she's telling you how you are going to nail it, and she tells you, babe, all you need to do is don't fret, don't show fear in your face, don't act like you're scared of the people. How does she tell you that if you do not show that you actually know that you are scared without hurting you? Vulnerability in marriage. You guys, please subscribe to the channel before we continue. Drop a comment. I am waiting. Vulnerability makes your marriage sweeter. You can see for sure that she's here for the real thing. He's here for the real thing. Like how? I really do not know what to say. You help your partner love you better when you are open, when you are vulnerable with them, when you tell them your past experiences, past that are related to your marriage, that probably will touch your marriage. A lady, for instance, that have been abused before by a family member is now married with kids, and because she's not vulnerable, she didn't explain to the husband, probably because she's trying to cover up whoever the family member is, and the husband is wondering why his brothers are around, and the lady is very careful. She said, let her daughter not go near there. She wants to catch the children and keep them with her, and the husband is wondering, where is this coming from? But don't you think it would be better if she had explained that, baby, I was abused by a family member while I was young. This was what happened, this was what happened. And so when you start acting from that place, the man understands where you are coming from. A man that was abused by his maid or by a maid when he was young did not tell the wife any of this story because he feels it will make him a weak person. And then she goes on and she's wondering why she keeps insisting that we need a maid, I need a help. And she's wondering about why he wants CCTV all over the house, even down to places that they shouldn't have it. And she's saying, oh, you want to see the maid? Oh, why are you so keen about sitting around the maid when she's feeding the child? Why are you also keen about what the maid is doing with the child? She does not understand where he's coming from, and so she can build her own perspective. Vulnerability will help your partner love you better. It will help them understand you better. I feel like for women, this is not a general note, but I feel like for women, or for me, if you are vulnerable with me, even as a friend, it takes our friendship from a level of 5 to a 95. Because I feel like, wow, You trust me so much to open up to me this much. You trust me so much to let me into your life like this. That is for a friend. How do you think your partner that genuinely loves you will feel when they see that you tell them openly what has happened with you? Don't get me wrong. I understand that some persons take advantage of your vulnerability and use it against you, but you won't know unless you try. Your past is your past. It doesn't form who you are in the future. As hard as it sounds, please try to be vulnerable with your husband. Ask him for intimacy. Tell him the way you want it. Yes, tell him in a loving way. Let them know. If you don't love them enough, please, this is me saying that you shouldn't go ahead. Do not commit into that relationship and marry them if you know you're not going to be vulnerable with them. Vulnerability, ask everybody, is what makes your marriage strong. Are you vulnerable because you think he can fix all your problem? No. You're vulnerable because, oh, I love you so much. Come into my space and see me for who I am. And so when you get to that phase in your marriage or in your relationship, you discover that you are not, it kind of limits, reduces expectations. That's what vulnerability does. It reduces the expectations you place on each other. He's not a superman and you are not a superwoman. He's not a magician. He won't be able to make you happy at all times. But you know one thing, because he's vulnerable with you, you understand that this guy is not perfect though. But he doesn't hate me, he loves me. So when he offends you, you see it from that place of this man has his weak side and so he's prone to making mistakes. Be naked and vulnerable with your spouse. Let them know you for you. Let your friend not know you better than your husband. It will cause cracks in your marriage relationship. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I love you. Drop a comment.